want to host our dear friend, Filippo Aschieri. And we want to talk about all his work, his interest in Rorschach, and his professional activities with the therapeutic assessment. He's a friend of mine. He's the editor of Rorschachiana in the International Society of Rorschach, the Journal of the International Society of Rorschach. And as far as I know, he's an associate professor of psychology at the Catholic University of the Sacred Hearth in Milan, in Italy. So maybe I can give the words to him first, then I can go with my questions.
No, thank you very much, Irem. It's a great pleasure to be here with you and to have this little discussion around the themes of the Rorschach and of therapeutic assessment. So I really love these two areas of psychology. So I'm very happy to talk about it when I can talk about it.
We know that Italy is a very productive country in terms of psychology, psychological work, research, many objective and projective tests. We would like to hear about your activities, your professional activities in Italy at the moment, about all the psychology in general, maybe Rorschach in particular.
Yeah. Yes. So I am doing many things. Mainly, I want to work as much as possible as a father. I am a father of two children, aged 10 and 7. So I am really trying to spend as much time as possible with them. In the remaining time of the day, as you said, I teach family counseling in Catholic University. And I teach postgraduate classes and, let's say, advanced topics of psychology and mainly psychological assessment in the postgraduate school of psychology in Catholic University and in the European Center for Therapeutic Assessment, which is a part of the postgraduate school of psychology Agostino Gemelli in Milano.
Maybe we can continue from there. You can tell us about therapeutic assessment. It's a specific tool, it's a specific form of work. Maybe we can hear about it.
Yeah. Well, I started working in therapeutic assessment probably as a part of my training on the Rorschach. Therapeutic assessment is probably the last thing that I learned based on the previous understanding and training that I had on the Rorschach test in itself. I would say that without the Rorschach, I wouldn't have arrived to therapeutic assessment, and that therapeutic assessment without the Rorschach would not probably be therapeutic assessment as we know it. So I really think that these two fields, projective measures and therapeutic assessment, are very, very tightly connected. So maybe, yeah.
How did you start with, you started with the Rorschach?
Yeah, I started with the Rorschach. If I have to think back, I started 23 years ago, which is almost half of my life now, which it's strange to say it. But I started in 2000 with Chiara Nosengo, who was and is an Italian psychoanalyst. And she was so fascinating for me as a student because she was teaching us according the Rorschach, according to Klopfer and the French school of Catherine Chabert. And I was really, really completely overwhelmed by the awe that I had for how she could understand the unconscious processes of her patients through the Rorschach. So I asked her to be my advisor for my final dissertation, and she was a very genial person, And she said, I like the fact that you like French psychoanalysis, but you should also learn this new thing. In Italy, it was still a new thing, called comprehensive system, which is very different from French psychoanalysis because it's all about numbers and coding and reliability and validity, but you should really learn this stuff. And so she sent to me to another psychoanalyst that was living in Milano at that time, whose name was actually, because he passed away, Bruno Zanchi. And he was the first translator of the whole 476 pages of the Rorschach, A Comprehensive System, Volume 1, Basic Foundations. It was the original version of the book is in 1986, and he translated it in Italian in 1993, I think. So I studied comprehensive system with him, and while I was studying French psychoanalysis with her. And then I got my degree, and I went to study comprehensive system in Paris with Anne Andronikov in Paris Nanterre in 2003, I think it was. Since then, I met Exner in Asheville and at the summer seminars of the International Society for the Rorschach in Waxholm in Sweden. It was an incredible experience to attend to that summer seminar because there were so many names that I studied only in books, and they were there as a person. And I remember thinking, oh my God, but these people exist in reality. they
are
bodies.
real.
So Exner has a body, and so it was very, very fascinating, a beautiful occasion for a student. And then I came back in Milano, and I used psychoanalysis and the comprehensive system together with my mentor at that time, Patrizia Bevilacqua, who was teaching the Rorschach in the Faculty of Psychology in the Catholic University. And it was very fascinating because we had a little group of young students, both from psychoanalysis and from, I would say, an empirically based, more supported version of the Rorschach. And we met every Monday to discuss cases. And so it was fascinating because we had sometimes disagree, sometimes we agreed about interpretations. It was a period that really taught me many things about the potentiality of using the Rorschach according to different views in a way. Then
you made a really strong start from both directions and learning many things at the same time and being overwhelmed, being so fascinated with all those things. So maybe therapeutic assessment was some kind of a good addition to all those background.
Totally. I think that in a way, therapeutic assessment is a way of combining different things, because you need to combine learning and knowing very well tests and test scores from I would say, standardized point of view, the by-the-book interpretation. So you have to know what Rorschach codes mean according to research. And then you have also to know what Rorschach images and processes and sequences of response mean according to psychodynamic theory. And then you have to learn and know what does it mean to administer a Rorschach from a systemic perspective. Because every test has a meaning depending on when you administer it, why you administer it, in which context you administer it. And so it's really fascinating because it allows, I think, to integrate many things that generally are not kept together.
How do you use therapeutic assessment at the moment? How do you use it? In what areas, in what directions? Maybe people would like to learn about it in specific terms.
I think that, I do mainly three things around the therapeutic assessment. Well, I am a clinician, I'm a psychotherapist, and I think that most of my professional practice is around applying therapeutic assessment with clients. And Stephen Finn helped founding the European Center for Therapeutic Assessment in the university where I work. And since 2010, I have been working there, seeing clients. Through a long time, during time, the typology of clients has evolved from individual clients early on to families with children, families with adolescents, couples, and adults that struggle with their choices in life, their psychopathology, their family relationships. So I think that most of my professional time, in a way, of my applied professional time is working with clients using therapeutic assessment. I started also studying and researching therapeutic assessment. I started studying therapeutic assessment, documenting its effects with single case quasi-experimental designs, which is a very interesting research design for clinicians. I think that clinicians should really try to document what they do using this research design, because it's very user-friendly and is very good for us clinicians that don't have a research team of 20 people that can administer 500 questionnaires or 200 Rorschach protocols. So I started working with this research design involving cases with a lot of psychopathological shame, a lot of complicated loss, and complicated post-traumatic stress disorder. Then I moved to write about, I would say, the theory that lies behind the therapeutic assessment. Then I started to study the effect of some techniques of therapeutic assessment, for example, collecting assessment questions. What is the difference between the test of clients that are assessed traditionally, in a traditional way, and the test scores of clients that before tests are administered are asked to explicit which are the things that they want to learn from their tests. Comes out that this is not a surprise to any good clinician. The second typology of clients, of patients, have protocols that are much more open and much less defensive than the first ones. So that's kind of easier to interpret. And since then, I worked with some colleagues that work in family therapy, in the field of family therapy and group therapy. One of them is Carlo Vetere. He's a friend that I like to mention because he is a very good clinician that he's a prototype of those clinicians that work in psychotherapy that find the Rorschach useful and kind of bridge the difference between those who are assessors and those who are therapists. And with him, we developed a technique in which we used the Rorschach of adolescent inpatients who are recovered in inpatient treatment centers. And we used their Rorschach to help the treating team to understand how they function collaboratively. And it was published on Rorschachiana before I became the editor of it. So I hope it was not a biased decision.
All you talk about shows us how crucial it is to use the Rorschach or the assessment system within the therapeutic system. I mean, many therapists maybe are not that much aware of the fact that these tools can be very efficiently used within their therapeutic understanding.
No, this is a mystery, I think, Irem. This is a mystery because if you see research tends to say that assessment is not so effective for therapy. There is a very interesting paper written by my friend and colleague Jan Kamphuis with other two colleagues, and they document how the treatment utility of assessment is at least debatable. And so I think that it's so important for us who love therapeutic assessment and who love Rorschach to devote efforts and show that tests can be useful for clinicians, at least, as they say in the paper, under which conditions tests can be useful. And my hypothesis, my belief is that therapeutic assessment is one of the contexts or conditions in which tests are more useful to the treatment outcome. With Jan, for example, and a couple of other friends, we have worked recently on a meta-analysis that has been published on the psychotherapy, and it's now it's online first, in which we document the effect of collaborative assessment techniques on a number of outcomes, finding significant effects on clients' symptoms, reduction of symptoms, clients' growth in self-esteem, self-awareness, and on clients' participation to the therapeutic processes, alliance, hope in the treatment, for example, in as short as 2.3 sessions average, meaning that you can really have an effect on your clients in a very short time using tests.
I know you personally, and we name ourselves sometimes for the listeners as Rorschach lovers. You are one of the most strongest one, I know you. But maybe you can just tell something about your relationship with the International Society of Rorschach, because it's a very huge organization that we are trying to take part, revive, and use all those things that you talk about very actively. I mean, we want really any kind of interpretation, comprehensive, French or RPAS, to stay alive forever. So we are working for it. Maybe you can tell some about your work there. And you are the editor of Rorschachiana, but you really have a strong relation there.
Yes. No, I think that it's the International Rorschach Society is vital hub of professionals for the development of the Rorschach. I still remember the first time that I went to visit the museum, the archive in Bern. It was still in Bern. And I thought, this should be visited by all students of psychology of Europe, at least and it was strange because it was not so attended. There was a book where people signed and left comments, and it was not a full book of signatures and names, and it's such a pity. So I think that we have a huge treasure, the Rorschach, and so far this treasure has not reached the mainstream audience, has not reached the vast majority of psychologists working around the world. So I think that the International Rorschach Society first aim should be, maybe it's not the first, but at least among the first 5 aims, should be to really showcase the effect of the Rorschach for the utility of the Rorschach for clinicians. Otherwise the risk is to remain in a niche, which is a beautiful niche, but I'm not sure that this niche has a future, long-term future.
We have to work on it. We are really very wanting to do it. We are just ambition. We have ambition to do it, but really maybe we have to work to let people think about all these widely, as much as possible. So thanks to this kind of online work going throughout the world, maybe we can have much more opportunity. We are just, as the society, planning some new seminars, workshops that will include many people all around the world. Maybe this will help us more in the future. But I know that you have very precious ideas about the Rorschachiana, because you are in hold of it for the recent times, so you know what's going on there, what is missing there. Maybe you can just tell something about it.
Rorschachiana is a new adventure for me. I started working there as editor-in-chief in 2000, late 2000, so it's less than 2 years now. My experience has been of a person that learns how to do a new job. So I could have not done this job without the support of the presidents. The first, Noriko Nakamura, who initially really connected with me around taking on this job, and with Fernando, the current president, Fernando Silberstein. He is an invaluable help in helping me with the journal. Of course, the board of the International Rorschach Society, you, Irem, and our friends and colleagues there are as fundamental as, the Rorschachiana would not exist without the society, and owes the society its existence. I see Rorschachiana as a service to our members and a service in general to people that love the Rorschach and projective methods. The way I try to act as editor is very much based on my own experience as a researcher who submit manuscripts to journals. And I had my fair, I think as we all have given, after some years of practice, our collection of rejections, our collections of reject and resubmit, our collection of major revision, and our generally very small collection of minor revisions on the first turn of review or accepted as is. So having experienced the whole array of response letter from journals, I try to minimize the things that I didn't like as an author. So, for example, I really hate when I receive reviews that miss the rationale for the comments or the critics. Sometimes I notice when a reviewer has some kind of bias around the topic that is being proposed by the paper. So in my effort, in my work as editor, I really try to be as open and collaborative as possible with authors when I write decision letters, providing very detailed overviews of what is good in the paper and what needs work. And on the section, what needs work is not just do it, is why don't you try to do this way? Why don't you try to do this way? Why don't you try to do that way? So that the authors are not left in the void, in the vacuum of this is wrong, period. I think this is something I really don't like. And around the bias, of course, there is the risk of bias. And that's why I have a wonderful editorial board, which is very rich and diverse. And when I am in need, when I don't know what to say about the paper, I ask them help. And it's very useful to work with an editorial board that is competent and open and hardworking. So I think that this is fundamental for a journal to work, to function effectively.
You are trying to really make the journal function more and more effectively. You are just working on the reviewing procedures, on submission procedures, and maybe in the very near future, we will be announcing new things about the journal. I mean, about the open access system or new database system, or how the online journal will work. We are really waiting for it, but it will need some time. But I guess you are very at hold of all these materials, and we are trying to really collaborate with the researchers and the authors as much as possible. I know it personally.
Yeah. The idea that what I find interesting is that I think that the submissions that we are receiving are better every year. The topics are addressed more and more sound designs. The diversity is fantastic. We have papers coming from China. We have papers coming from Togo. We have papers coming from Europe, the US, from Japan. And I think that this is a really beautiful feature of Rorschachiana. It's a place where people can submit the papers coming from very different backgrounds and have hopefully a fair revision process.
Maybe we can use this platform to make some advertisement that we are really wanting more and more submissions, and we are really waiting for
absolutely
new submissions with all those backgrounds. It's an open area for researchers, for Rorschachers to be seen, to follow all those academic and clinical activity all around the world.
You couldn't say better.
Maybe just before closing, you are really a hardworking person. I know it. What do you like to do most? And which part of all these professional practice attracts more attention, makes you more excited? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that, well, as a researcher, the thing that excited me the most was seeing the manual for adult therapeutic assessment out last year. Writing it has been a work of probably 4 summers spent
without any holidays, maybe.
Yeah.
And with 2 children.
Yes. So it has been a big effort from Francesca Fantini, the first author, but I helped. Steve Finn was involved as the inventor of the method, and he gave a great help in writing the book with Raja David and Hale Martin. Probably as a teacher, I think as for those of us that have the experience of teaching, what is really satisfying is seeing our students learn. It's very rewarding seeing colleagues learn therapeutic assessment and have the experience of impacting positively on clients' life. And probably as a clinician, what motivates me the most is the fact that when clients refer me their best friend. when
it's the best always.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling.
These were the things in my mind. Would you like to add anything that comes to your mind?
No, I would like really to thank you for this interview. I think promoting visibility of the Rorschach, it's so important, and I think that this is a wonderful way of doing it.
Thanks a lot for all your collaboration, for giving us your time. I hope people will just listen about our podcast and will really get excited about new lines of thought, especially through therapeutic assessment. I was one of them when I just heard the therapeutic assessment issue first time. Oh, I was really fascinating. So maybe we will just open new ways of thought for some colleagues. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to
Hope
you.
to see you soon.
Absolutely. Ciao a tutti.
Bye.